Hey, welcome to tonight's online travel education with Toad Learning Camp. Today we're going to talk about the world's largest desert, or in other words known as Antarctica. We're going to talk about traveling to Antarctica and why you would select Antarctica, when's a good time to go there, and how to see Antarctica. But first, some fun facts. Antarctica is bigger than Europe and almost double the size of Australia. It's mostly covered in ice, and the ice in most places is over a mile thick. There's more than 200 bodies of water under the ice. In fact, about 70% of all the fresh water on the earth is found in Antarctica. And there are 2 active volcanoes. Back to the ice information, if all the ice on Antarctica were to melt, it would raise this oceans 200 feet. Only 10 human babies have been born in Antarctica. And it's considered a meteorite heaven because of the white ground there. You can see the meteorites a lot easier, and so a lot of people find meteorites there. Deep Lake is the saltiest lake on Antarctica, and it never completely freezes. It's 10 times more salty than the ocean. It can go down to -4 degrees Fahrenheit without freezing. As I mentioned before, Antarctica is the largest desert in the world, and this is because of the amount of rainfall that it receives. The driest place on Earth is called the Death Valley. The humidity there is so low, the snow and ice can't even accumulate. Coldest temperature was at Vostok Station back in 1983 at a -128.6 degrees Fahrenheit. And the highest temperature ever recorded at the South Pole was 9.9 degrees Fahrenheit on December 25th of 2011. But the areas that you would go to on a cruise are much warmer than that. I shouldn't say considerably warmer than that, but they are definitely warmer. So why Antarctica? First of all, there's a lot of wildlife to see. Science, photography, there's some great photo opportunities down there, and the unspoiled nature. A lot of the reasons why you would go to the Galapagos are the reason why you would go to Antarctica as well. When's a good time to see Antarctica? Obviously, it's going to be in the winter that we have up here, because that's when summer is down there. Late October is going to be your shoulder season, and it's going to give you the best pricing if you can find a cruise that goes at that time. But there's still a lot of ice on the peninsula, so you're not going to get in as far as you would later in the season. November, you're going to start seeing the penguins hatching. In South Georgia, the elephant seals will start courting. And that's a good time to see the emperor penguins and more wildflowers starting to come out. December is probably considered to be the best time to go. It's the warmest of all the months. You're going to see migrating whales and a lot of seal pups and a lot of seabirds that are courting. January is going to be your peak time to go. That's when the most people are going to be there. The most cruise ships are going to be there. You'll be approaching 24 hours of daylight, and you'll start to see the baby penguin chicks and seals and whales. In January, there's definitely going to be more options to go on shore and do excursions there than there is before that. February is going to be your best time to see whales. It's also going to be the time when there's going to be the least amount of ice. And if you want to get in further and start to approach the polar circle, that's going to be your best time to do that. in March, it's going to start getting colder. The chicks are going to be grown up, but you're still going to see lots of whales. Not as much snow cover. So your pictures aren't going to be as great, but you will have great sunsets because now the sun will be setting. This is also considered the shoulder season, and you'll have the best prices then as well. Here's just kind of some basic information. This was information from the South Pole itself. So this isn't where most of the cruises are going to go, but they do have a good amount of wind. Average wind there is about 12 miles an hour. Average annual temperature runs about 57 degrees below zero. And the record lowest temperature at the North or at the South Pole was 117 degrees Fahrenheit, and as mentioned before, 9.9 degrees above zero was the highest recorded temperature. So how do you want to go and see Antarctica? Well, you can go cruising, or you can basically just go cruising. There's not really any opportunity to go to Antarctica to fly there and stay there. There are some options to fly there and take a cruise so you don't have to cross the Drake Passage, but we'll go over that later. But even the researchers don't stay on Antarctica. They're staying on ships around the peninsula and around the continent. So this is a itinerary. I believe this was one from Viking, where most of the cruises are going to leave from Ushuaia and go through the Drake Passage and then go over to the peninsula. Over here are the Falkland Islands, and this is South Georgia. Just to give you kind of an idea of what's where down there. Cruises can be in length from 6 days to 23 days. It just depends how much you want to see. The 6 days are the ones where you're going to be flying over or flying back. 23 days are going to go to the Falkland Islands and over to South Georgia as well. There's about 50 ships that sail there, and they're all different sizes. They can be from under 25 guests to over 1,000 guests. I was kind of surprised. Even Celebrity talks about the Silhouette goes to Antarctica. I wasn't able to find anything that went down south of the Drake Passage. They pretty much are just north of there. The 6 to 15 days will not have time to go to the Falklands or South Georgia Island. So you're going to be looking at least a 2-week cruise if you want to get in a little bit more. Smaller ships are going to be a little bit more costly. They're not going to have as many food options and as many expedition leaders, and seasickness will be a definite possibility because of the size. The large ships, if you have over 500 guests, they're not allowed to go ashore. So you're going to have a naturalist on board that's going to talk about everything that you're seeing. You'll be able to see anything from the ship, but you're not going to have the same experience actually experiencing Antarctica if you're on a larger ship. Around 300 to 450 guests is a good size ship to go on. And there's definitely a lot of options and a lot of different levels of service when you're looking at that size ship. There's a lot of different cruise companies in Antarctica. These are just a few of them, and all different sizes, all different levels of service. Some of them, I didn't include Viking in there. Viking will be starting up in 2022. They'll also be considered a larger ship for, I believe. I know Viking does go down there right now with some of their ships, but they don't go very far, but they are getting expedition ships, and I can't remember the size of the expedition ships. I'm guessing they're going to be smaller, so they will be able to make some landings. Scenic, for example, is one of the newer expedition cruises that's down there, and they have things like submarine and 2 helicopters on board. So getting further inland on a helicopter tour is definitely a possibility with them. Hurtigruten has a ship that in the summer in the north is in Norway and is used as a ferry in Norway. So they have a lot more space on board per passenger because they've got all the space where they usually are taking the cars on the car ferry. And so they have a lot of options with kayaks and the Zodiacs there. So that's definitely a good one for having a lot of activities with the cruise line. Some of the itineraries, the closest landmass is going to be South America. Ushuaia, Argentina is about 800 miles away, and most sailings will go out of there. But you can also do a sailing from New Zealand if you have a lot of extra time, because that's going to take you a week to get to Antarctica. But you can also sail from King George Island, and this will avoid the Drake Passage. Basically, you would fly to King George Island and then get on a boat and go from there. That would be about a 6-day itinerary, but this is going to be, believe it or not, one of your more expensive options because the flight down there is on a very small plane and it's very costly. So cruise itineraries, usually you hear the cruise lines are going from Santiago or from Buenos Aires. And what they'll do is you'll get a one-night stay there and then fly down to Ushuaia and then get your boat or get your ship down there. This particular itinerary would sail from Buenos Aires and end in Santiago with a stop here. I think this is the current Viking itinerary when they do go around the Cape. And this one also goes through the Chilean fjords and several other areas in addition to going to the peninsula, but this isn't going to go in as far as the sailings that go directly to Antarctica. And just to give you a layout, here's where most of the cruises are going to leave. Falkland Islands are over here, South Georgia. Elephant Island is a destination that many of them will go to. And the Drake Passage is here. And most of the cruises aren't going to go much further than the peninsula because they just can't get there. Too much ice. And the Drake Passage, what they say about the Drake Passage is either you're going to have a Drake Lake or a Drake Shake. And it can have a lot of strong winds, massive waves, and just not pleasant. I've heard of some people who have had the Drake Lake and it wasn't too bad. It still can be pretty rough, but they call it glass, even though it's not perfectly still, because it's so much better than what it can be. It takes about 36 to 48 hours to get through the Drake Passage. So you're going to be going twice during the cruise. So that's what adds to the length of the cruise. If you're not stopping at the Falklands or South Georgia, your cruise is 8 days just getting there and getting back. But there's so many rewards going on a cruise to Australia. Here we've got the chinstrap penguin and the cormorant. There's many different kinds of seals that you can see. The dusky dolphin and the elephant seal. And the emperor penguins, if you go at the right time of year, you can see the baby penguins and orcas. There's a lot of different kinds of whales down there as well. So getting there when the whales are migrating, and that would be a nice time to see it. And then we've got a skua and wandering albatross here, and along with the baby seal. And that's Antarctica in a nutshell. Any questions? Let's go ahead and see if I can unmute you guys. Or you can unmute yourself if you want.
Hey, Trace, in your research, is there a better time to go? Is the weather better at one point of the year going through the Drake Passage, or it can be hit or miss no matter when you go?
It can be hit or miss.
Okay.
I would basically plan to have it be bad and pick your dates based on what you want to see and experience in Antarctica itself.
Okay.
What's the price range of the various cruises?
Well,
I know it's giant, but
yeah, the average price is about $10,000 per person.
okay.
Most of the cruise lines are charging starting in either Santiago or Buenos Aires, and they do include the flight getting to Ushuaia. Someday I'll know how to really say that word. And I've priced out some trips for others before that were, I think we were looking at 11 to 14 nights. And it was around Christmas, and we were looking at about 30,000.
A person.
No.
Oh, for the
Yeah.
group.
For two people. And that was actually, if I recall, it was either on Silver Sea or Seabourn. So it wasn't low end. I know that it was higher. I think we were approaching 45,000 for two on Scenic Eclipse. And of course, some of the smaller, more expedition-like sailings, not the more luxury high-end, are going to be a little bit on the lower side than that. But you're still looking at probably at least 15 to 20,000 a room, depending upon length of sailing.
Now, some of the cruise lines I was looking at, they will give you like the expedition jacket and the boots and all that. Do most of them do that, or it's only select few?
A lot of them do that. On some of them, it's you're borrowing that equipment.
Yeah.
On some of them, they do give it to you for keeps.
Okay.
I know like Hurtigruten and I believe Viking as well.
Okay.
They all have that as kind of your own keepsake. So
Just what you need, Karen, an expedition.
No, I mean, because I live in Florida, it's like I don't have any winter clothes. It's like,
right.
yeah, but you know, some of them were giving you the jacket and the boots stuff. It's like, well, one less thing I gotta buy.
Yeah. Well, and it, I mean, other than the jackets that they give you that you can take with you, with a lot of that, they don't want you taking all that extra stuff down there with you
Yeah.
because you're going to be taking a smaller plane going from Buenos Aires or Santiago, and you just don't want to be carrying that much luggage.
Yeah.
Tracy, these cruises are typically, it's all inclusive. You're not worrying about buying the super deluxe drink package and everything.
Yeah. And differently, obviously, some of the cruises don't offer as much as others in terms of, what food options they have and what drink options they have, but everything's pretty much included.
Yeah, these are true adventure cruises.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Kath, I'm looking at one that we get in the Zodiacs and go out and see the penguins and the, the whales and stuff. I don't want to come back to the cruise ship and try to figure out, oh, are we going to the show tonight? Or do we
Yeah.
have first dinner, second dinner? I don't want that kind of a trip. I want to go and if I go to dinner, I'm going in jeans and my, my hiking boots, and I'm not looking for fancy.
And
Yeah.
that's what the cruise lines, regardless of which ones you're going on, unless you're going on the ones that are bigger than 500 passengers, you're not going to have a show in the theater. You're probably not going to even have a theater. You will have a speaker that's probably going to talk to you about what to expect the next day. Some of them will have labs on board where you can study stuff kind of similar to what they do in the Galapagos too, where you can kind of see what the naturalists and the expedition leaders are looking at. And so any that have multiple dining options, you're not going to be dressing up for dinner.
Yeah.
No formal night.
No,
Yes.
no, not at all.
Do you have
On
a,
the expedition type ships, what do the bathrooms look like? Are they are they like regular
Depends.
cruise ship bathrooms, or are they like, the crew quarter bathrooms?
It really depends on the level
Okay.
of ship that you're on. Some of them are pretty tiny and pretty basic, and you go to the Scenic Eclipse and you can have a hot tub on your balcony if you wanted. And so it's, definitely a wide variety
Okay.
of options. Karen wants us to look at a group in 2023.
If you want to do a group trip, I don't know. Knowing the price of this, I don't know if you're going to have people want to, especially after doing a year after Galapagos.
Mm-hmm.
So, but Kathy, I was thinking about 2023, and definitely not Christmas, just because of, flying in and out of South America at Christmas. I wouldn't want to do that. But,
Mm-hmm.
the nicer time to go is beginning of December, or try to go end of January, February. February would probably be a little bit of a lower season, so it'd be a little bit cheaper.
mhm. So would you do then 2024?
Or would you do February of 23, or would you want to go, or
24.
or would you want to do 24? Do like February of 2024, because that gives you about 2 years after Galapagos. This thing is going to cost us $15,000.
Oh, I know that. I know
Yeah.
that. Yeah, if you want to look to,
Would you rather do
Yeah.
beginning of December of 23, or would you want to do like something February of 24?
this is your trip, Car.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I can go. I definitely not Christmas. Nothing mid-December through,
Yeah.
the first 2 weeks of January, because that's the high season.
I want to see whales.
I want to see whales.
You're
I
going
want
to
to see
see
orcas.
whales either in February or December. If you want
Yeah.
to see the seal pups and the penguin babies, the penguin chicks, then you want to do earlier December. And honestly, in December, it's definitely going to be warmer than it is into February.
I know. We'll talk about it, Kat. Penguin stinks, so
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
My 2 cents worth is that the weather is going to change faster down there at the extremes of the planet than
Yeah.
it does, say, in Kansas.
And that's like the Drake Passage. It's not, it's going to be hit or miss. Either it's going to
Oh, yeah,
be
that's a roll.
rocking and rolling. And trust me, if I'm on that boat, it's going to be rocking and rolling, because I've got the luck of the Irish.
Yeah, that's just the luck of the draw.
You're
Yeah.
taking a lot of drugs.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Well, we can.
Can I get a
certainly-
trip?
Huh?
No, Trip is going to come with us.
He might be a little sick, but I look green.
But I would want to do a trip where we would fly down to
Your
Ushuaia
Ushuaia.
and then get
Yeah.
on the ship there and go through the Drake Passage and then do the little from there and then come back.
Yeah,
you
and
know.
then
Would
Fly
you
into
want to go to the
area.
Falklands or to?
You know what? If we go to the Falklands, that's going to be a 2-week cruise.
It's
What's
going
there
to
to
be
see
close.
on the?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
gonna be close to 2 weeks either way.
yeah.
It can be, 11 to 14 days if you're not doing the Falklands. Or it can, you can probably get away with the lower end if you're not doing it. Yeah.
What's there to see in the Falklands
Um,
that's different than going to Antarctica?
well, it's not going to have as much ice. So you're going to see other things on land. You're going to be able to do more things on land there. Because there's actually going to be land under your feet and not a mile down. I know South Georgia is known for their penguins, and I didn't write down my
I'm
notes.
just, wondering is what's different about it?
Mm-hmm.
Falklands are British.
It's where Prince Andrew fought in the Falkland
right.
War.
That's right.
So definitely some stuff that we can look into.
Yeah.
Or you want to go to like Santiago or Buenos Aires?
Well, if we're going to fly down there, you'd want to probably, most of the people are flying into
Either one.
Buenos Aires and spend a day or two there
Mhm.
and then go down to Ushuaia. They usually spend the night in Ushuaia. And a lot of these cruise lines, they put you up in a hotel as part of your cruise package.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you get on the boat the next day. And then when you come back, you don't usually stay overnight in Ushuaia. You usually fly back to that same day as the boat comes in or the cruise ship comes in. That's when you fly back to Buenos Aires or wherever you're going to.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
The one nice thing about going from Santiago down is going through the fjords in Chile. But that adds on a lot more
That
time.
adds more, yeah.
Yeah. You're looking at least 3 weeks if you're
Yeah, I
doing.
can't take that much time off.
Yeah.
How is the internet on the ships?
Probably not great when you're all the way down there. Of course, Tanya worries about the internet.
Hey, I have a job. I have to be accessible. I'm going to be gone for 2 weeks.
Well, and like Karen said, you're overnighting in a few places. So those are taken into account in the number of days of the trip. So when they say it's an 11-night cruise, you're not on the boat for 11 nights. You do have the overnight on the way down there, 2 overnights on the way down there. So that's what adds to the trip is the days that you're inland.
Have you sent people to Antarctica, Trace?
I have, but not on an expedition ship yet.
Okay.
So
On like one of the
on
bigger ships.
ships, yeah.
And what was their review of it?
They thought it was awesome, but they didn't go through the Drake Passage because
Okay.
they were going from Santiago to Buenos Aires.
Okay, so they did the loop around.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did that on Viking last year. And they came back and they booked another trip, so they must have, they survived. Unfortunately, they booked Italy for this year. So,
Ugh.
yeah. All right, well, I'm going to turn off the recording if no one else has any questions.